Right. Thanks so much, Steph, and thank you, everyone, for allowing me the time in your busy schedules just to talk about all of the new products and stuff coming out of UPPAbaby. So this is my contact information. It's going to be on the last slide as well. Either one of these emails are a great way to connect with me. All right, so let me get going. One thing I did want to let you know is, let me see, what time is it? It's 2 o'clock here. So in Las Vegas, it is 11 a.m. and they've been open since 9 a.m. where we introduced this new product here. So the Aria V2. So the Aria is our lightweight product. If you're familiar with what we've had on the market, this is the next version. The Aria itself, as well as this one with the new updates, both of them do meet the 213A and 213B regulations that are coming up. This seat, we wound up changing a few minor things on it to do some upgrades and updates on the product. It weighs 6 pounds approximately, and it doesn't compromise the safety and the ingenuity and the comfort of the product while trying to keep that lightweight story. I don't know why I'm having a hard time going from one slide to another. There we go. So the Aria V2, it has an active support head restraint, so no rethread harness. What this means essentially is it's how that harness travels with the headrest at all times. This has 25 positions, so it really does accommodate a child's height as they grow. There is one crotch buckle position, obviously for the simplicity of it and to eliminate any type of misuse that can happen. We do have a two-piece infant insert design, and if you've seen the original Aria, this is very similar. So the bottom piece essentially will boost the child up so they fill that harness properly, and then the back piece helps with that chest forward slightly to bring the head back so that we have that optimum back angle. There are labels on both of them telling you when to remove them. It's really nice because that back positioning insert, the one here in the back, it velcros underneath. I call them the little headrest ears. So as you adjust the headrest, the back positioning insert goes up and down with the headrest as well. So it travels with the child as they grow, but it's positioned in that correct area on the child's back too. This right here is one of the hang tags that is shipped with the Aria V2. And it lets you know about the back positioning insert as well as the preemie cushion that I just discussed and outlined a little for you. I did mention that there are weight requirements on both of them. The bottom one is our preemie cushion. It is for 4 up to approximately 9 pounds. Now, all of our inserts throughout all of our products, and if you're familiar with UPPAbaby, you're familiar with me saying this, everything is approximate because we understand that every child is different. We use approximate because there's a chance it could come out before that limit, upper weight limit, or after. It doesn't matter either way. We want to have that proper positioning for the child. So the bottom piece, as I mentioned, goes up to about 9 pounds. If the child is sitting on top of the buckle or the harness itself is cutting into the thighs, that's an indication it's time to remove the bottom insert. Okay. The back positioning insert is from 4 pounds up to approximately 4 months. The reason why we're going with that 4 months is because it's not about stature and weight, but more about maturity. Typically, children tend to have good head and neck control about 4 months. So we want to have that extra boost with the chest forward, head back slightly, and then putting them at that correct angle up to about 4 months. Have I removed it before 4 months? Absolutely, just because I could tell the child didn't need it. So it just looks like they're sitting almost too far forward. One of the things that we did with the Aria V2 is we changed this angle slightly here. It's not as steep, it's more opened up a little just to give them a little bit more leg room for comfort. And obviously, as parents, we all tend to, well, you hear it a lot as technicians, I should say. You hear a lot about, well, my child's legs, they're scrunched, they're this, they're that. This just gives them a little bit more room. There is a foot muff that will ship with this seat, and you can see it when it's on there fully, and then you can fold it back, as you can see on the right-hand side. One thing that is extremely important with this, and there are warning labels on it, this is just for use outside of the vehicle. It cannot be used in the vehicle. Um, a lot of reasons why we say that. We don't want the child, getting that loose and putting it over their face. There's actually also, so this is kind of considered an accessory, and accessories have different flammability requirements than car seats do as well. So that has something to do with the fact that we want it to be used outside the vehicle. European belt routing, as you're all familiar with, it provides an extra secure installation. So you're obviously pushing down when you are pushing and pulling to get rid of the slack in that lap belt. But what this also does is it gives you an extra tightening into the vehicle seat back. So I always explain it, you're tightening in two different directions. Locking that seat belt, it really does give it more of a secure installation. And more importantly, if you're familiar with a load leg, and I'm going to do a little visual that I'm sure some of you have seen before in one of the next few slides, that explains why a feature like this limits a forward motion in a frontal crash. Your release from your stroller as well as your base is back here as indicated. Similar to the current Aria, the Aria V2 has 5 positions for the carry handle. The 2 that are starred right here can be used in vehicle. Okay, so we've tested both of these. We wanted to do the forward rotating one like so just because it adds that added safety protection if you're doing carrier only install to help with rebound forces. And then the one up above is obviously the easier one that parents are going to grab. You're transitioning from either bringing the child from in the house to out in the car or on a stroller frame, either way. So that's why we went with those 2 locations. It does have an extended canopy with UPF 50 plus. So here you can see the extension, and then there's also ventilation all in the back as well. Alrighty, so if you're familiar with the Aria base, there has not been any changes to the base. Just to go over this, because I know we have some new technicians on the call, as well as there are some people out there that are not familiar with the UPPAbaby product. We have our Smart Secure system. So a Smart Secure system, and we're starting up here on the right, it is a dual retractor system. And so what that means, it has auto retracting latch in here. They're 2 ALRs, were automatic locking retractors. So they're locking retractors. And then we have a tension indicator on top. As you apply pressure to tighten, whether you're using the latch or you're using the belt lock off, the tension indicator will roll over red to green. It's a visual indicator letting parents know they're tightly installed. We are always telling parents to check in the belt path because it's a mechanical device. We just want to have that extra security there. And it might roll over a little bit of red to green. The good thing is you just apply a little bit of pressure and it pulls in tighter to the vehicle. And it is extremely sensitive too. So if you find you have a tight install but a little green showing, it's still considered a good install and you're in there properly. The bubble level indicator, down here, it's hard to see, but it says 0 to 4 months. So this goes in line with the story with the back positioning insert. We want that insert in for children from 4 pounds up to 4 months approximately. So here we want them to be in that little zone and get that optimum recline angle. If it means that maybe you need to use a rolled towel, that is permitted when the foot is fully extended on the reclined foot. We do not allow pool noodles. All right. We also have the load leg, which is obviously for increased safety and reduced rotation in that frontal motion in a frontal crash. And it's a great feature. If you have it, we always advise you to use it. We strongly suggest using this in case the vehicle manufacturer says you can't use it. That way you still have the two systems working together and jiving together, meaning your vehicle manufacturer permits it and your car seat manufacturer permits it. You're going to see that throughout this presentation. A lot of our safety features or advanced safety features, they are for the that added benefit, but then they're also strongly suggested because we want everything to homologate together, work together, okay? And we have a lock off, as I mentioned. The lock off is a true lock off. I know some people don't like that term, and I say true because we get asked all the time, do you lock the retractor? To me, if it's a lock off, then you don't lock the retractor. So, but that's what we call it. We call it a built-in lock off, and you do not lock the retractor on our seat. Okay, so this is a visual that I was going to say I was going to go over. Okay, so what happens is just to kind of give you a little kinematics of the crash and explain things. The first thing that happens is we have a crash, and the crash occurs, well, I should say this, the highest percentage of crashes that occur are frontal, which is why obviously FMVSS 213B and what FMVSS 213, what it has been in years past, is a frontal crash. So everything moves toward point of impact in a frontal crash. Here we go. So we get hit from the front, everything's moving toward that. What happens is in this case, because they're rear facing, the child is going to rotate back because they're moving toward point of impact too, and then they rotate here. What happens is all the crash forces are then sent down to the vehicle floor. It keeps the child, when you use a load leg, it keeps the child more at this upright angle, that optimized back angle that we as car seat manufacturers design to. If a car seat rotates too far forward this way, what can happen is a child's body can scoot upwards and put stress and strain on their head, neck, and shoulder spine area. Because remember, we're at or below with a harness, which is there on purpose. This is also, we also have to take into account the 1-inch rule. We hear about the 1-inch rule a lot because we want to make sure the child's head is contained in case of them being rear facing in a frontal crash. The reason being is because we don't want secondary head impacts to be happening with the front vehicle seat. So this is just a simple way of explaining what happens in a crash when a child is rear facing. The Aria V2, this is our color lineup. I know this is important to some people, because I know we have some new moms or soon to be moms or grandparents, so they like to see this. So we always like to throw this in. And then we also have our dual tech fabric. And so it's fire retardant free. The fabrics are, the foam is, it's removable and washable, and it's soft to touch. Okay. These can actually also be put in the dryer on low. So that's something new. Other things to note, which is where I think your CPS tech hack comes on. Vehicle floor mats, they have to be removed when you're using our load leg. The reason for that is because we want good contact to happen on the floor with the bottom of the load leg foot. Part of the reason is because in vehicles with a standard floor mats, a lot of times they slip and you have children that are crawling in and out here that kick it, or adults, and it slides and it can just, reposition the load leg. And then you have your aftermarket ones where you have a difference in thickness. So, in an effort to try and just have something consistent, that's why we say we want you to remove them. Inflatable belts are not permitted. One of the great things about this seat in a vehicle is you can switch to latch. However, if you're on an airline, you will not be able to use an inflatable belt, so you are going to have to find a new location. 3 across. Now, what I'd like to say about this is keep in mind best practice, right? We always, in curriculum, we talk about doing the best we can, making the best decisions for the caregiver, the car seat, and the vehicle, right? So ultimately, as a car seat manufacturer, we don't want any of our car seats to touch. And the reason being is because they don't touch on the bench. We need them to act independently of one another in a crash. However, not every situation can obviously be like that. So this is our stance on three across, but please keep in mind that we also have to keep in mind what best practice is and working with what we have in order to achieve a good install or a better install when they arrived. Vehicle seat protectors not permitted. Do not touch the front vehicle seats unless approved by the vehicle manufacturer. And if they are permitted, we just say lightly touching, and we allow center boring up to 22 inches as long as the vehicle allows it. So this is an inflatable belt. Okay, so it goes, it's a lap belt. As you can see, it's pretty bulky. This is from a Delta flight, and it deploys upward, okay, to obviously aid in that occupant's ride down of the crash. So the reason why I wanted to show you this is just so you can see what they look like, how it deploys. The reason why we don't allow it is because we can't guarantee how it's going to deploy in our seat. We don't test it. We worry about the child interaction and components flying off as well. And then the routing. If you have a rear facing only seat and you're routing this, it's not going to be able to go through those belt guides. Or if you have a forward facing harness seat, it can't route behind the child. So many times I fly Delta a lot because I'm in Metro Detroit. It's a hub. I know what rows have those seats. So, but then, it's a matter of taking that additional step and doing a little research. Something else that's a little different with us is we talked about the 1-inch rule. So this is another hang tag that goes with the Aria V2. We have 1-inch here. What I would like to point out is that we would like 1-inch at all times when you're using this seat, regardless if it's in the top position or the lowest position. We just want to ensure we have that added safety or benefit of that additional inch. We also have the Mesa V3 we are launching at ABC right now. So a trusted and true product, if you're familiar with our Mesa products. It was honestly like our first car seat in the industry. The weight is from 4 to 30 pounds up to 32 inches. So there's no base changes on this. It does meet 213A and B. One thing you're going to find out, we talk about, I did mention one of the things that we will be discussing is the impact some of these new regulations have on our product. One of the things is our headrest ears are getting larger. And you would have noticed that, I don't know if you noticed it also on the Aria V2. That's to help with the head roll that we see in the side impact collision. This area in here, you might find it to be a little smaller. In some cases, you might find additional padding very close to the child's head to help with that energy absorption. So that's one thing that you're probably going to be seeing in a lot of rear-facing only seats or infant seats, right? Because that's what it is now in curriculum. This seat has a new headrest mechanism. There's 25 positions in this as well. So this, we took the mechanism from the Aria and Aria V2 and put it here in the Mesa V3. It was well received in the market, and the adjustability and the functionality of it were great. So we decided to take that design and implement it here. There is infant insert that you're familiar with. Again, just pointing out, this says 4 to 11 pounds approximately. There's a chance your child, this will come out well before 11 pounds. It's all about you. It's about having options for the child. Speaking of options, we do have 2 crotch buckle positions to optimize fit as the child grows. So if that infant insert comes out, there are 2 buckle positions, and it is about fit. We just don't want the child sitting on the buckle. We want it resting up against their pubic bone. And then we do also have the magnetic harness buckle pockets as well. A little nice marketing feature. Alrighty, so the ergonomic handle, this has 4 positions. We also have that rotation forward. So in the vehicle, when it's rotated forward and carry handle are approved in this case, it has the UPF 50 plus canopy with the additional coverage you can see. This little thing comes out here. There is a little bit of ventilation there. Here you can see, and then this folds over and it's magnetic. The base has not changed. Just to, again, for all the new people out there and the ones that have never seen UPPAbaby product, this is, again, our smart secure system. So 2 retractor systems in the tension indicator. I should have mentioned The tension indicator also works with the lock off because it's attached to our recline foot here and it compresses and rolls over. This is a lock off, so no need to lock retractors. And it does have a 4 adjustment recline. All right, one of the things with this, and we find that many times with the original Mesa base, which is the one I just showed you in the previous slide, when we run into the case of this design feature in vehicles, it's a waterfall. And we see this in quite a number of vehicles. If this wedge occurs, a rolled towel is permitted between the seat back and the base. The next slide I'm going to show you will explain that a little better, but it is not needed 100% of the time. Okay, and I'll tell you what to look for. So here we want you to go through the installation process. When you get your recline indicator at the correct location, if you notice there is a gap right here, that's when a towel is going to be used. We don't want a big bulky towel. Dish towels are usually not thick enough, sometimes if you roll them together, but a hand towel from a bathroom seems to do the trick. So you want to fill this up, and then place it right where it is right here and go through the installation process. You want your tension indicator green. I'm checking my belt path. I'm going back to make sure my indicator on my recline is still good. And then this last step is an important one. We want contact to be happening with the front of the base and the front of the vehicle seat. Okay. If you notice there's gapping here, that might mean you might need a bit of a bulkier towel. Okay. So this will also ensure that we have your recline angle at the correct location too. Okay. And your child for that matter. This is in all Mesa models. So you can use this on the Mesa Max, the Aria, I should say too. The Aria's in here now too. And the Mesa V2, and Mesa V3. So this is where you can find the information in all the way to our support and FAQs. This is what you'll get a PDF, but this is also in our manual. So all of our manuals have this. You will notice this has an anti-rebound bar here, anti-rebound plus panel, which is similar to the Aria. So this can be used here too if there's gapping, and you notice that it's lifting up here. Sometimes the load leg will cause that to lift up off the vehicle cushion as well. But all of this is available to you on our website as well as in each of our manuals. Here's the color lineup. This has Safe Tech fabric. So the fabrics are fire retardant. It's removable, washable, and soft to touch. Okay, so same kind of story here. Inflatable belts not permitted. Airlines find another location. 3 across, can't touch, but obviously best practice has to be taken into consideration. Vehicle seat protectors are not permitted. Front vehicle seats not permitted to touch unless a vehicle allows. And then we do have 22 inches in center borrowing as long as the vehicle permits. All right. One thing I would like to chat about real quick is the car seat tolerance test. I get a lot of calls, and so does our customer experience team, about the car seat tolerance test. One thing you need to remember is car seat bases, they are designed for vehicles, and vehicle cushions are never flat, like extremely flat. There's always an angle to them. So it's how we design the base and the recline adjustment angles. They all go hand in hand with the back position of where your child will be. So when you do the car seat tolerance test, there should not be a base in the hospital. Okay. And one thing I did find out doing research on this, every hospital's procedure on the car seat tolerance test is different. There is nothing that is, so it's not very black and white, let's say. So we're telling you no base. You should be using the carrier only. Use this as your reference line. So this needs to be parallel with your floor. When you have your carry handle straight up, the center of gravity is spot on and it sits in that correct position. Okay. If I rotate my handle back to get the child in, I need to rotate it back up. The reason, if I rotate it back, it winds up rotating the seat back too and affecting the back angle. Okay. And infant inserts are approximate usage. Again, they are labeled. All right. So the Rove. The Rove is out on the market right now. Right now, it meets the 213B, which is a new frontal regulation. It does not meet the new 213A. Um, but they will be implemented by the due date of June 30th, 2025. Now, I'm just going to say a little service announcement here. All seats that are on the market are safe. There are rumors right now that we have to use all current product. It's safer. I have to tell you, it really is all safe. We have been testing side impact regulations for years in the car seat industry. We have a boatload of knowledge in the car seat industry. And all of the testing, whether it's current or future, it's all rigorous. We do additional testing, cycle testing. There's some manufacturers that do rollover testing and rear impact testing. So we do really, as car seat manufacturers, do our due diligence, and it's important that we explain all this to caregivers. I think sometimes telling them too much can be confusing. So keeping it minimal, right? Simple, just like curriculum. And I feel like it's our responsibility as car seat manufacturers to have products on the shelves that are safe. And we're going to make that happen. And we're just asking that everyone trust in us. So, just wanted to point that out because I know this seat is not new side impact compliant yet, but it will be. It's a running change. This seat starts at 14 pounds. 14 pounds is a 50th percentile 6-month old. We have the stance that this is a seat that is great for a transition out of that rear facing or infant seat at about 1 year. If the child starts using it beforehand, completely fine. That headrest goes down quite a bit in order to properly get that child in the proper positioning relative to the harness straps. Okay, so 14 to 20 pounds and forward facing 30 up to 65 pounds. So this is something else you're going to be seeing. Starting weight is 26.5 pounds. Some manufacturers are just rounding up to 30 to make it easier for technicians and caregivers. If anything, gives them a couple extra pounds too to, prolong the movement from rear facing to forward facing. We advocate big time and to keep children rear facing as long as possible. Height is incorrect here, by the way. It has 30 inches. And so this did not get updated. So ignore what weight and height say. And go with the statistics the information you see up top. I don't know what happened here, so I apologize, guys. All righty. Okay. Side impact pods. All right, so I mentioned the headrests are going to get bigger. This is another thing you're going to see is added technology on the side of the seats. This is something we anticipated happening with all of the rulemaking and all the information coming out beforehand about the side impact regulations. And then doing side impact over in Europe, we were able to gather a lot of that information and come up with this design feature right here. This is a cone-like feature. Upon impact, it absorbs here, similar to front crumple zone. So it'll absorb here rather than transferring to the child. The headrest has multiple positions for proper positioning. This label right here, I just wanted to blow it up because I think it's great. This is what is right here. So it's telling us where, everything should be positioned. And then we talk about where the harness should be positioned as well when they're rear facing and forward facing. So, okay, this is the upper harness height and lower harness height. I know some people like that. And then this is our comfort inlay. This is not required by any means at any point. It can come out at 14 pounds if you like, but we are advising you to take it out at 20. Okay. It's a very thin layer. It's just for a bit of comfort. We have 3 crotch buckle positions just to guarantee a proper fit. The child should not be sitting on top of the buckle. It ships in the second position. So based on our child fit studies, We determined that was a good spot to have that buckle at when they're rear facing upon shipment. And then you have the option to go forward as well. This is a lock off, so no need to lock the vehicle retractor. You just pull this little thick piece of thread and it opens. This is what our two belt paths look like. The blue is rear facing, red is forward facing. We do have the tension indicator system on there as well. Okay. One thing that's great is if you want access to the blue rear facing, it unzips and the panel comes up. You have your QR code and you have instructions all here. If you're doing forward facing, the panel underneath the headrest, so you lift the headrest up, it comes down and it unvelcros and you have access to everything there as well. The tension indicators, we would like you to evaluate those post installation. So that means go through the installation, check out the tension indicator, and then check out in your belt path to make sure you have a tight install. All right. Here are your latch limits. So rear facing, it goes to 40 pounds and forward facing up to 45 pounds. Okay, so you can use latch for a good chunk of time, even when you switch to forward facing. And I'm going to get to this in a little bit, but a 50th percentile 5-year-old is 40 pounds, just to put things in perspective for everyone on the call. Okay. So we're not trying to advocate or anything for a child, obviously, going forward facing too soon. But either way, we really do educate on using seatbelt install that way too, just to take the guesswork out of trying to figure out when mom or dad have to switch from lower anchors to seatbelt. Multi-directional tether. Okay, so we are the only one on the market that has this tether. It's used rear facing and forward facing, and it ships on our seat. So it's a great feature. This kind of goes back to that whole conversation about the forward motion and frontal impact in the front of the vehicle. So on the left side, I'm a big visual person. On the left side, we have like before crash. And on the right, you have at your maximum rotation in a frontal crash. Okay, so right away, you can see the big difference from using the tether and not using the tether. It is stored, it's external to the seat and it's yellow so that it brings attention to it because we want them to use it. It's strongly suggested for use, not required, because if we have a vehicle that we don't reach that anchor location, they can still use the seat. It passes regulations when you use it and you don't use it. There is a difference when you use it. You can see that it really does minimize that rotation and keep the child more upright. And putting less stress and strain on the child's body. Okay. And then this goes back to that secondary head impact too that I mentioned. You can see quite a difference when you look at the proximity to the front vehicle seat. Now, I did mention that as manufacturers, right, we do a lot of extra testing. And one of the things we evaluate is the Consumer Reports test. In the Consumer Reports dynamic test, they have a plate that is supposed to be representative of the front vehicle seat. The reason they do that is because they do evaluate whether or not secondary head impacts happen with the front seat. So this is something that you can, obviously use this feature. There is a difference between the two. But that's why we have that 1-inch rule once again, is to just contain the child's head, because there is going to be some stretch in the vehicle belt and the internal harness system in a crash. This is all going to be very familiar to you. You're going to see that inflatable belts are not permitted. 3 across, again, do not touch. They must install independently. The Smart Secure system, and I mentioned this, we want you to look at that post-install. Go through the installation and then check your indicator. Vehicle protectors, not permitted, and then same story with the front vehicle seats. The Alta, does not have to meet FMVSS 213A, and I have a slide here to explain this a little more. But this seat, we want children to start using it in elementary school age, and this is all over our print material and in the manual too. We want them to keep them harnessed as long as possible. This has always been the story behind this, so going from 40 up to 100 pounds. Okay, so again, at taking although we don't have to meet the side impact regulations in the seat, there is side impact technology put into it. There's multiple layers in the headrest, and we also have these pods as well. Similar to the Rogue, they are out at all times. We're not waiting on the consumer to pull those out. They're just there. There's the ergonomic armrest. Part of it too, and the fact that they are so big is in an effort to, in hopes that parents will also route the shoulder belt underneath there on the buckle side as well. Lap belt positioner. This helps prevent submarining in a frontal crash. It is strongly suggested for use, not required, because we know that children are going to get in the car and they're not going to use it. They're going to sit on top of it or put it in front, fold it in front of them. It does pass either way when you use it or you don't use it. There's an added safety benefit to using it. The rigid latch system can be activated by pulling out this gray handle right here. The whole carriage scoots out. Again, strongly suggested for use, not required. We know in the industry we say, oh, it's just going to prevent the seat from being a projectile. It also keeps the booster seat and the child in the correct location, that pre-crash position, which is even more important. We've done an upgrade here with our shoulder belt guide. It just slides in. To take it out, you just lift that little gray lever up. Okay, so why no boosters in FMVSS 213A? For those that are not familiar, 213A is a new side impact standard. 213B is the new frontal. 13A side has to be in by June 30th of this year, so soon. Frontal has to be in by December of 2026. Okay, so just give you, I guess, a little perspective on this. So this is what it says. So the new standard, it applies. So add-on child restraint systems, they're either that are either recommended for use by children in a weight range that includes up to 40 pounds, or by children in a height range includes heights up to 43.5 inches. NHTSA recognizes that children weighing more than 40 pounds seated in a child restraint or booster, okay, will be seated high enough to benefit from a passenger vehicle's side curtain airbag. So what they're saying there is children 40 pounds and above will be boosted up enough so they can use all of the safety features in the vehicle like you or I could as adults. So that's the reasoning behind it. Just to give you a little bit more context, here is this CDC growth chart. And I mentioned this earlier, a 50th percentile 5-year-old, and I have these circled on the chart, stature and weight, 40 pounds, 43.3 inches, and that's in the new regulation. So there is some science and some data that has gone into this, which all of us, I think, as technicians, as manufacturers, we are really happy about. But it gives us the why behind why there would be no side impact regulations with boosters. Okay, it would drive obviously changes to the product, and it could drive costs and other things as well. So this is something that NHTSA did research on and what they proposed as part of 213A. Couple other things to note about the Alta. So the inflatable belts are not permitted. I know there are some on the market, boosters on the market that do allow them. We do not. Just because we don't know where the deployment is going to happen in that shoulder belt. So in a 3-point belt system, this is where your inflatable belt is. We don't know where it's going to deploy, and we don't want it deploying in our shoulder belt guide. Okay, so depending on where that is and how big the deployment is, it could deploy in the incorrect location. And then you're familiar with these two because you've seen them across all of our products. They cannot touch, must install independently, and vehicle seat protectors are not permitted. So this is my last slide. I'm going to leave this up with my contact information. We are MACPS members, and we do offer technician discounts on car seats only. These are my 3 girls and my mama. She is 80 years old here. She turned 80 in December, and I just love this picture of her and my girls. So I wanted to end on this and take some questions. I think, Steph, you're going to help me out, correct?
I am here and we do have quite a few questions. So let's get
All
right into
right.
those. And before we get into the questions, I just wanted to let you know there have been a couple of comments and it is appreciated, especially those that are newer, the perspective about the kids sizing. So thank you for getting into that. That was great.
Of
Um,
course. Thank
so Denise is asking, while the infancy base has a true lock off, so you don't have to switch the belt, is it a problem if the caregiver does switch the belt anyway? That is switching an allowed option?
Yeah, if it does happen, Denise, that's completely fine. I think we just don't go through it in our manual because I think just added information can add confusion, sometimes just trying to keep it simple. But yes, like I know as technicians, we think of occupants next door and them playing with the vehicle belts. Yes, as long as it's not like affecting installation, where you're feeding the belt up and it tilts the base, that's a whole other thing. But yes, if you lock the retractor, it's not the end of the world.
Okay. And then Francis asked for the anchor for the indicator. Did you say that a little red is acceptable if it's for a secure install
Yes,
for
yeah.
the angle
Um,
indicator?
so Yeah, so you're talking about the tension indicator, I'm assuming on top, Francis. Yes, so if you find that you've got a really good install, and it's like rock solid and it's just this thing is just, it tends to creep out, that is completely fine. What happens is one of the great things on our seat is that it sometimes with temperature changes and then you have vehicle belt stretches and then the lower anchors are on webbing, so those stretch too. They all play a role in what happens with that tension indicator sometimes. And even like from Mesa to the Aria, there's even some difference slightly there too. Like I find the Aria sometimes it's so rock solid, even if there's a little smidget of red. So always check that belt path 100%.
Okay. And then talking about the aria, Carla is also asking, she just wanted to double check that the aria has a lock off, a true lock off, as well as
Yes, it
I'm getting
does.
another question. Does the row also have a true lock off, or is that
Yes,
considered a
yes.
belt tensioner? Okay.
Yep. So all of the products right now in the market and new coming in, with the exception of the Knox, which the Rove is replacing it, so it's an older convertible product from UPPAbaby. All of them are lock offs, so no need to lock retractors.
Okay. Very good. And then Francis asked again, is a load leg okay to use with the center hump in a vehicle?
So in that case, Francis, that would be we would say check out your vehicle owner's manual. I know that some vehicles say it's okay, some say it's not. I believe there is an Audi that where some of the electric vehicles in the center hump they store their batteries, so they don't allow it. Um, and that's just an example. So just definitely check your vehicle owner's manual. And if the vehicle says it's okay, then it's okay on our side to use it.
Great. Okay, great. Anne is asking, UPPAbaby does not allow pool noodles then. Can you get into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think what it is when when we work at caregiver with caregivers, a lot of times they're either we do a ton of virtual consultations. And a lot of them they don't have pool noodles. Um they have towels. And we found with a lot of our products, you just in the ones that need towels, you just need a little boost, like literally a little boost when you're using it for recline. And then we don't like it as much to fill the gap between the bases and the vehicle seat back, just because we found like some can slip when you're trying to install, and then some of them you want to cut in half and you can't cut in half. So it's just a matter of we just found that it's just easier just to go with the towel. It's not, definitely not the end of the world if you are at a car seat check and you have to use a pool noodle. We always just instruct them, you know what, when you get home, just swap them out if you can, if that's a possibility. Otherwise, it is not the end of the world, but we've evaluated them all with towels. We have not evaluated with pool noodles. So that's why I don't suggest it.
Okay. Okay. Carmen has asked in the aria, it, can you go over again, Daniela? She is commenting that it is mandatory to lock the seatbelt when installed without the base in the European routing.
Yeah, yeah. So when we do I'm sorry, this was Carla, Stephanie?
It's Carmen. Carmen.
Carmen. So Carmen, when we install with European belt routing, we want to put the vehicle belt in that pre-crash position. So we need to lock it in place. So if you're using, for example, a base, we install that base really tight. And then we put the carrier on the base. And the base is what we say is in that pre-crash position, right? It doesn't move more than an inch. When you use the vehicle belt, when you do carrier only install, you need to lock it and put it in that same position because we don't want the carrier moving more than an inch either. The reason being is because then you get movement in a crash. And if there's more movement than than it is allowable in a crash, all of that transfers to the child and just puts more stress and strain on the critical areas of their body. Hopefully that makes sense.
Great. Thanks for that clarification for Carmen as
Yeah.
well as the entire group. So, and then we have a couple of questions about fire retardant requirements, and they kind of go hand in hand. The one question is, what does UPPAbaby use to meet the requirements in place of standard fire retardants? And is the entire seat fire retardant free, or is it just the foam and the fabric?
Okay, so it's just the fabrics in the foam, depending on the seat. So the Mesa V3, and I outlined that the foam is not fire retardant free, but the fabric is fire retardant free. Okay. As far as the ins and outs of all of that, I don't have that readily available, but I can provide it if you shoot me an email to one of the emails here. But how that test is, so that's a test that's fairly old. And what they do is they just take a piece of the fabric, they take the fabric and they put it. Do you remember Bunsen burners from high school,
You
in
bet. Yeah,
science lab? Yeah.
you bet.
So it looks like a little Bunsen burner and there's a flame on it. The flame has to be a certain height. And then what they do is they measure and they look at the burn rate of the fabric. And that's the flammability requirement. That's part of like the testing they do. So, and in the case of accessories, they have different flammability requirements than car seats do because it's considered an accessory. It's not considered part of the car seat.
Okay, great. We still have time and we still have quite a few questions, so I'll just keep
Sure.
going. Tyler is asking, has the load leg been tested with compartments under the floor?
So we have not done that because we don't have access to vehicles to do that. So everyone's aware the new 213 bench that was just developed for the frontal impact does not have a floor either. So for all the manufacturers that have load legs, we have to bring a floor in to do that testing, to do an evaluation. For us to evaluate any type of empty compartment underneath, we'd have to do a vehicle test, which is an extreme amount of money. So that information we rely on from the vehicle manufacturers, which comes in, our trusted latch manual, which we all turn to quite a bit for that level of information.
Okay. Aaron asks, are your shoulder pads required for use in either of the seats?
Great question. And I normally mention this, so I apologize. All of our harness pads are optional. They are not required.
Okay. Hayes is asking, is there an option to purchase a tether extender?
No. So if you have an issue with a vehicle, I would love to know because the only vehicle that I know of that we don't meet is the Honda Ridgeline. I was actually talking to Emily Burton over at Honda, and I guess they're going to be doing a design change slightly with that. So I'm hoping that the new one will work with our tether. Although in the Rove we did extend it a little more to accommodate just in case, but that's the only one to my knowledge.
Okay,
And I haven't tested it with the Rove to be honest, so it might fit on the Rove now with the length extended.
great. Tracy is asking for the booster, does it need to be flush against the vehicle seat or is a gap permitted if there's a non-removable head restraint pushing it forward?
So obviously, good, better, best, again, keeping that in mind, trying to find a different location. We would like it to make contact and not being propped up by the vehicle headrest. That's first and foremost. That would be our direction. Try to make that contact, maybe play around a little bit with the vehicle seat back if the vehicle permits you to do it, because there are some vehicle manufacturers that have certain recline angles indicated in their manuals for installing car seats. But yeah, we want contact to happen. If not, try and find an alternative location. Otherwise, we're down to that best practice conversation and figuring it out.
Okay. And Claudia has given us a question, and if we need more clarification, Claudia, if you can add some more, but which car seat would you recommend? And we'll go with the UPPAbaby car seats for long distance driving is her
Okay.
question.
Yeah, so at UPPAbaby, we follow the American Academy of Pediatrics. Just like you and I, we need to stretch and get out of our seat and get the blood flowing again. Babies need to do the same thing, and children need to do the same thing. So we always say within 2 hours. I know it's a pain, just jumping out obviously with the car parked in a safe location, and getting stretching and everything too. Car seats aren't meant to be for, sleeping. And I understand that's kind of, a bit of a sales pitch response, but really, I do believe in it. We all need to stretch and get out of the vehicle. And yeah.
Absolutely. Shayna has asked two questions, and her first question is more of a general question. Are inflatable seatbelts with all the traveling that you do, Daniela, are they on airplanes becoming more common? Are you seeing them more often?
No, no, I'm not. So the one, it's so funny because the only airplane I have been in that has them, and maybe I do fly Delta quite a bit, is Delta. I haven't seen it in others. Maybe other manufacturers have seen some. There is only one row that has it, and I think it has something to do with the compartment, like the distance between seat to seat. And it's the first row behind first class. And it gives you, I get it because it has a little bit more leg room, and I'm like, bonus. But I do get the inflatable belts there. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it, is the distance there from seat to seat, but I'm not sure. That's the only one that I know of, and I don't see them a lot.
Okay. And then she also asks if you can explain a little bit more the difference between dual tech and pure tech.
Yeah, so the dual tech has the FR free story on the foam and the fabric. Whereas the dual tech is, or the other one is just on the fabric, not the foam.
Great, great. And then we just have one last question. And that question comes from Pamela. And can you tell the group about the technician discount?
Yes. Okay, so we offer 30% off on our car seats only, and we also handle shipping. And what we need from you is you would email me and you just need to provide proof of certification. And you're allowed one a year for personal use or for training purposes, professional use. Um, and then we keep track of it. I give you a code, and then you can go onto our website and enjoy your discount.